Welcome to Millersville University's Office of Learning Services presentation on study skills. Today we will be talking about how good study habits will produce good grades. Let's get started. Good study skills do not involve studying harder, but studying smarter. The purpose of studying should not have to be studying very hard within a short time span the night before a test. Rather, it should be that you are studying smarter and preparing for the test by studying for it far in advance. We will discuss some ways to do this in some later slides. When studying, you want to be consistent and study regularly, not just a day or two before a big test or quiz, as tempting as that is. Studying is also about more than just reading your textbook. You need to consider what the text is saying and include presentations from lectures into your studying routine. The overall goal of studying would be to retain what you are studying and to think critically about it. Many professors rely on application test questions for exams or quizzes so they can really truly tell how well you are interpreting the information that you have been given in class and in your textbooks. These are some of the different parts of a studying routine that we are going to discuss in more detail in the upcoming slides. First, you need to consider your environment in which you study. You should find a good place to study that works for you and set that aside as your fixed spot to study and only study that is free of any distractors. A great example of this would be if you have a desk in your room. Set this spot aside as your spot to complete your work and study. You should want to avoid studying in your bed because then your body will associate your bed with work and possibly stress, which will make it harder to fall asleep when you need to. Similarly, you should study before you go to bed. You should have a separate routine for going to bed and for studying, but studying before bed may help you to retain the information more because it will be the last thing you do for the day. When you are studying, make sure you have the following: your assignment book or calendar to help you to guide what to study, good lighting so that your eyes do not get easily tired and you can see everything well, a comfy chair you can sit in for long periods of time, and wear your glasses if you need them. You also want to make sure you have any books or any articles, supplemental readings that you may need to study from, any supplies that may help you study, like highlighters or index cards, a clock. You can use your phone, but be sure to put your phone on Do Not Disturb so you can easily study without any distractions, and a computer if you need it to pull up information from D2L or other programs to use as study tools, such as Quizlet. The next point to consider is to make sure that your study materials are organized to your liking. You should know the classes you are taking and what materials and assignments are required to study from. Having these materials organized will allow you to not have to search for any needed materials when it comes time to studying. Next, know your test dates and put them in your calendar. This will help you to start studying in advance and to not procrastinate. You can even make smaller deadlines for yourself as far as studying goes as well. Lastly, it is very important to attend your classes and to take proper notes so that it makes studying more organized and you will not be missing any information that may be important for your upcoming tests. Make sure to check out our note-taking skills workshop if you need help taking notes during class. The next point to consider is to manage your time when studying. You should create a study routine that includes a start and end time for your study periods. We recommend the best way to manage your study time is to study in chunks. This means that you are studying for 20 to 50 minutes at a time following a brief break from the information. These breaks are the best times to check check your phone, get a snack, or use the bathroom. There are many online websites and apps that are made for studying that will help you keep track of how long you've been studying and will alert you when it's time for a break or to return to studying. Feel free to check some of them out. I really like some of them. It's also important to figure out the time of day that you learn best and schedule your study periods around those times. So, if you work better in the morning, you should try and get all your studying done then when you are not attending classes. This may require you to go to bed earlier, but it will lead to success on tests and quizzes in the future. Another point to consider is to set goals for your study periods. You should write down what you would like to accomplish within the time frame that you must study and the chapters or presentations that you would like to look over within that time as well. This tends to make studying less threatening and easier to consume because you will know what needs to be completed and it will help you to hold yourself to that standard to complete them. This is also a great way to break down your studying, especially for cumulative exams where you must study full text before the test. The last point to consider is the use of your personal study time. As hard as it may be, sometimes personal study time is not the best time to use television, use your phone or text, or go on social media, etc. There are periods you should be using to read or pre-read your textbooks, work on writing assignments, study for tests, and work on projects, especially if you have group projects. As mentioned earlier, putting your phone on Do Not Disturb and studying in a place with little distractions will allow for the best use of your personal study times. We are now going to discuss how developing good study habits entails what you do before, during, and after class. So before class, you should prepare by thinking about what the class is going to be about and review the main points that were covered in the previous class. This would be a great way to come up with any questions that you may need answered for clarification when studying. You should also review any assignments that were due before class and make sure that assignment is completed in full and turned into its appropriate place on time. You should prepare for every class in this manner because it will help you to remain organized and will allow you to have time to get help from professors if you need it. During class, you should concentrate on the subject being taught. Do not be working on other assignments for other classes or doing anything unrelated to the class during that set class time. You should be listening attentively and taking notes on main points within the lecture or anything that you may find important for your later studying. You may also note any ideas or questions that come to mind during the instruction period that may be helpful to you later or that you would like to be answered by the professor. Best way to do this so that you don't forget questions is to kind of write them on the side of your page or at the bottom of the PowerPoint slides if you printed them out, just so you remember them if it's not a good time for questions to be asked. So during class, we can talk a little bit about, how to listen better in class. You should form good listening habits for class so that you can best focus on what is being discussed. A big aspect of listening is to try not to daydream during class. Easier said than done, but some days, you really have to focus, and that should be all days. Also, you cannot listen if you are talking. So try and avoid conversing with people around you during class so that you don't miss any important information. If you have to answer a question about a piece of classwork from a student next to you, that's fine, but as long as you're getting right back into listening to the presentation that's being given, you'll be okay. Good listening also means that you're paying attention and absorbing as much information as possible. Try to hear what is said and not what you want to hear, because you could miss information that is important and that can affect your performance on tests and quizzes. Try to think around the topic and between the lines, because it's likely how you will be tested. It's the best way to try and understand the information fully, is to look deeper into the topic, not just at the base level. Another great way to listen is to relate the topic to what you already know. Making connections means there is less memorizing that needs to occur. And also ask yourself, what is the main point of the presentation and why it matters to the subject. This will help you gain a full picture of what you need to focus on when studying. Okay, so after class, you should review your notes and think about what was just covered in class. Some people like to rewrite their notes as they study, but others like to underline and highlight important ideas and vocabulary. I personally prefer this method because I love to color code what I learned and group them into similar subtopics and color code the definitional terms that I need to know. That's how I personally study after class and look at my notes after class. Also, after class would be a great time to ask for help on anything that may have been confusing to you as well. Clarification on main topics is especially important so that you can understand the complete picture of the class. We will wrap up with this presentation with some tips to help you study smarter. First, smart students do not just read, they seize the main idea, which means that you recognize the main idea and attempt to understand it to the best of your ability. They think about what the author is saying and uses the information shared to form their understanding of the topic. They concentrate on what is being read. They do not just read to say that they read the assigned readings. They can paraphrase the main ideas to help them understand the full picture of the topic. They can apply what is being read to personal experiences, which helps to make connections and makes studying more efficient and understandable. And lastly, they remember as much as possible. You may not remember everything that was said by the professor or the text that week, but know that you absorbed as much as you could is important for your success. The next tip is to study actively. Like mentioned previously, you should paraphrase main ideas so that you're aware of your level of understanding of said topics. Discussing key concepts with peers can help you to study, because if you explain ideas clearly to a friend without looking at the notes or textbook, you then know your level of mastery with the information. Making your own applications and examples will also help you to remember a large amount of information, because you can make examples that relate to your own experience. And as we've been mentioning, connections are really important. Again, you should consult professors for clarification and ask yourself questions while studying to see if you are truly grasping the information. Handling difficult subjects is challenging, but there are a few things you can try to help get you through the tough information. First, rank your classes by the level of difficulty and be sure to spend time on your most challenging classes every day and early on in the day. You are more likely to absorb the information if you are studying it within daylight hours. And so making use of, the time of day, the earlier times of day is very important. You should also bombard yourself with the information. Do not give up and keep trying to work through the information until it clicks. Just constantly exposing yourself to that information is really important. You can also read other sources that may provide a further explanation or a differently worded explanation that than what is like given in your text or in class that you may understand better. Sometimes it's okay to do a quick Google search to see if a definition is worded any differently or any more clearly before going and asking for help. But also make sure that definition is the same definition in theory. Lastly, you should ask for feedback on your understanding of concepts from others, especially if you struggled on previous exams and only memorize when necessary, because you do not need to know everything word for word to understand it. But just making sure you're double checking yourself, asking a classmate, asking a professor, asking a tutor what the concept is and checking your understanding of that will help you remember it in the long run. The last tip is to get enough rest. Simple as that. You need to be alert and relaxed to study smarter. So the only way to do that is by getting an optimal amount of sleep. Lack of sleep impairs your memory and shortens your attention span, which you need large amounts of for when it's time to study. Make sure you're going to bed early before big exams, as well as to ensure that you are alert and your brain is working to its full capacity during those long periods of time. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation on study skills. Please be sure to check out our other presentations that are provided by the Office of Learning Services, and feel free to contact our office with any additional questions that you may have.